Hello, screen watchers. Today I will be delving into a topic that is very near and dear to every one of our hearts. Sex! Or rather, sex within the confines of religion. Needless to say, there's a big difference between sex, making love, and, well, porn. So can we do the same with a religious perspective? So I want to play a game. Well, not a sex game. Well, maybe a sex game. I'm going to talk about sex within the confines of Islam, the Greco-Romans, and ancient Sumerian religions, with some random facts about each thrown in to keep things zesty. Here comes the fun part. Then I'm going to decide whether or not they consider sex spiritual, primal, or my personal favorite, both. Let the game commence. I'll begin with ancient Sumer. This particular civilization's sex rituals were particularly hard to research simply because, well, turns out there aren't a whole lot of scholars out there that care to write about Mesopotamians and their hoo-ha. But fear not, I found information! Fact 1. Every year, a high priestess would act as an avatar for the goddess Inanna or Ishtar. I'll color Anna to make it less tongue-tied for myself. Anyway, this goddess Anna was kind of this cool bridge thing between humanity and divinity. So why is this such a big deal? What does this have to do with sex? Good question. Fact 2. To mark the new year, the king, or potential king, would step forward to have sex with this priestess to prove his power. By the way, the whole kingdom would show up to watch. Don't worry, buddy. Everybody has little problems performing, especially in front of an audience. Nothing to worry about. And fact 3, by the union and pleasing Anna, the Sumerians believed that the gods would bless him in victory and warfare and conquest and politics and reign. But this couldn't be any old average Joe. No. This guy had to stand out, had to be powerful, prideful, attractive. 'Cause let's be real here. He had to sexually please a goddess, which I believe the preceding men are worthy of doing. Stereotypically, that's a hard thing for nice little Joe to do. Hard thing. Hard thing. Bad joke. I wonder what would happen if the priestess was like, nah, I don't feel like having my brains sexed out of me today. The stars are not in position for this ceremony. Like she said, stars can't do it. Not today. Anyway, is this ceremony for primal or spiritual motivations? Obviously, this king guy is looking for some serious blessings from his gods. And the priestess is in on the blessings and everything, but I'm sure she wasn't opposed to some serious pleasure. So I put our good old Sumerians into the both category. When I picture this ceremony, I see the Sumerians performing a spiritual act in a primal way. Come to think of it, for being one of the first civilizations on Earth, they probably found their actions to be extremely civil. And now for something completely different. Islam! Also, short story time. When I first started learning about Islam, I couldn't help but notice the extreme similarities between Islam and Christianity. In fact, the only huge difference is that Christians worship Jesus as a savior instead of listening to him just as a prophet. These two religions share the same ideas on sex as well. No sex before marriage. But sex itself, as defined in the Quran, is divine because it brings two opposites together. The sexual relationship of the couple takes up and amplifies a cosmic order that spills up on all sides. Procreation repeats creation. As so eloquently stated by Abdel-Wahab Bodiba. He says that in his essay, Sex in Islam. It was in the thingy. By having sex, the couple is bringing the two halves of God together. And as such was intended. But there is nothing in the Quran to state that sex is strictly for procreation. Muslims, along with other religious people, think that there's nothing wrong with a little sexy time after a baby's born. Pleasurable sex is more than approved of for maintaining a healthy marriage and living environment for the child. Because seriously, what kind of a kid wants to live around parents who are cranky because they aren't getting enough penis? Or vagina? Sex for making babies. Sex for pleasure? Both! Again. Sudden subject change. And my personal favorite, ancient Greco-Roman culture. Now these people were like sex addicts. It wouldn't be Sex Addicts Anonymous because they would all be going. There's sex everywhere you look. They wore phallic amulets for protection. Women wove huge wooden penises during religious processions to celebrate the more than human passion for life that the gods gave them. Wow, they really loved them some penis. They had phallic images at grave sites to ensure the safe passage of the soul to the underworld, thanks to Hermes. Speaking of Hermes, sex gods, all of the sex, all of the gods, everywhere. Aphrodite, goddess of love, lust, and beauty, who her very self was formed from the castrated genitals of Uranus. Anteros, god of requited love. Eros, god of sexual passion. Himeros, god of sexual desire. Logos, god of sweet talk and flattery. Pathos, god of sexual longing, yearning, and desire. Pythio, personification of seduction. And let's not forget Priapus, a garden god who emerged from wood, which is, by the way, where the slang term for erect penis comes from, as a short, stubby, fat, bald man. Sex gods, sex gods, everywhere. I think I screwed that up a little. But wait, there's more! The famous Grecian art, which is known for glorifying the human body in its most vulnerable state. I mean, look at the statue of Aphrodite for a sec. Not only is she pretty much stark naked, but she's attempting to cover herself. Or is she? Thomas More of The Soul of Sex states that she is doing two things at once. Covering and beckoning. I'd like to think that all of us can imagine just by the strategic placement of her hands how she could possibly be beckoning. Wow, Chico, wow, wow. Clever little thing, is she not? She's impersonating both sides of sex. Openness and privateness. Or rather, privacy. One could even argue spiritual and primal? Yeah. Both! The ancient Greco-Romans were getting jiggy, to be sure. But the fact that they have different meanings behind their sex symbols and lifestyles proves that they weren't just being sexy for the sake of being sexy. I mean, how can these people possibly have sex gods and not consider sex spiritual? Sex. Lots of it. It's a perfectly human thing. But apparently, this is not enough for some people. Some wanted to explore why sex was created, how it should be practiced, and how it should affect us as humans. Some looked to their religion and the examples their gods set for them. Some gods viewed sexual conquest as a sign of adequate power. Some gods saw sex as something so sacred and blissful, something that was destined to bring together the two halves of creation from the beginning of time. Some gods didn't know which direction to go, so they went in every direction. Some of you might be a little agitated and disagree with me that one civilization or another were just primal motivations or just spiritual motivations for sex. But if you think about it, humans are not strictly primal or strictly spiritual, are they? I think the very combination of the two is what makes us human. Thank you for listening to my little spiel. And I'll see y'all around. Maybe in the afterlife.